Researchers at the psychology department at Harvard University in 1998 wanted to find out how much people pay attention to their surroundings. So they hired an actor to go on the campus and walk up to people and ask for directions to a building somewhere on campus. And then on cue, they had a construction crew with a big piece of drywall literally walk in between the person asking for directions and the person that had stopped to give directions. Well, while they did that, as the construction crew brought the piece of drywall, they inserted a completely different person behind the piece of drywall. Different build, different look, different voice. And so when the drywall piece went by, 50% of the time, the person giving the directions didn't even notice. It just completely just kept giving directions over and over and over again. And we laugh at that study that was done 24 years ago, but our attention has become even worse today. A Nielsen audience report showed that the average person in the United States spends 10 hours or more in front of screens, phones, tablets, computers, and TVs. 10 hours a day. Now that Harvard study wouldn't even be possible today because you wouldn't be able to stop someone because people are walking like this, right? With our phones. Now, the Nielsen report revealed a dramatic 1 hour increase of screen time in the last year. Now, a few years ago, one of my daughters put an app on my phone. It was so incredibly disturbing that she felt like she needed to do this, but it was an app that tracked the amount of time you spent on your phone. She said, "Dad, you spend too much time on your phone." And I said, "I do not." She said, "Trust me, you spend too much time on your phone." She said, "I'm gonna put an app on your phone and we're gonna be able to check every single week how much time you spend on average on your phone per day. Lean to the person next to you and share what you think is your estimate of how much time you spend on your phone every single day." How many spend less than an hour on their phone every day? Let me see some hands. Less than 2 hours. I see a less than an hour back there. You are a liar. You're a liar, right? Now, researchers did a study where they asked people how much time that they spent on their phone. And you would be shocked at what they found. British psychologist Dr. Richard House said it is quite shocking that on average, 1/3 of people's waking hours are spent on their phone. On average, 5 times an hour every waking hour. 5 times an hour every waking hour. I'm embarrassed to actually say this, but I completely forgot that my daughter had put this app on the phone, and then she came over, I don't know, a few weeks later, and she said, "Dad, let me see your phone." And she looked at the app and she said, "How much time do you think you spend on your phone?" I'm like, "I don't know, 15, 20 minutes a day." She said, "Dad, 3 hours and 12 minutes a day." I'm like, no. And I was like, that was staring at me right in my face. 3 hours and 12 minutes a day. It is now built in on your iPhone. If you have an iPhone, I don't know about Android, but it is literally built into your phone that there is a place where you can track how much time you're on your phone every single day. Clifford Noss is a professor at Stanford University. He told the New York Times that he had been in awe of people who are multitaskers, right? I'm doing this, I'm talking to you, but I'm also checking my phone and I have another thing that's going on, and like, I'm a multitasker. I'm not gonna ask you to raise hands, but how many of you, you're proud of the fact that you can keep all kinds of balls in the air at the same time, right? And so he conducted a series of tests on multitaskers simply to find out what makes them so good at what they do. But at the end of the study, he was shocked. He said, multitaskers were just lousy at everything. Everything. They were outperformed on every measure by people who aren't multitaskers, although they've convinced themselves and the world that they were great at their tasks. He said, I was sure they had some secret ability, said Nas. But it turns out that high multitaskers are suckers for irrelevancy. So we're in this series called Would You Rather? And we've been talking about important bargains that we choose to make in life, right? That we choose to do. Every time we say yes to something, we say no to something else. And so God was always offering a better way. And so we are recalling this in a fun way, Would You Rather, because of that game that you used to play as kids, or maybe you still do as adults because you're awesome. So as kids, you would always ask this question, this very difficult scenario of A or B, which one would you choose? So we're gonna do this today, okay? So here is the Would You Rather question. And I'm gonna give you 30 seconds to answer this to the person next to you. Would you rather be attacked by a shark in the ocean or attacked by a grizzly bear in the woods? Shark in the ocean, grizzly bear in the woods, go. To the person next to you, which one would you rather have? You know? Yeah. At home, which one would you rather? Shark or a bear? And 3, 2, 1. Raise your hand if you said shark. Really? Why? Why? The water helps your body. Really, have you ever seen Shark Week? Have you ever seen Shark Week, right? How many of you said bear? Right? Have you seen what a grizzly bear can do to people, right? That's a good question, right? So God is offering today a great would you rather. And so let's jump into it. Our Bible passage is in Luke chapter 10. If you're here today and you want to join in, or if you're at home watching, we have a Bible app. You basically look up CCV Philadelphia and wherever you are, or like iTunes, that sort of thing, or the App Store, and go to the Bible tab, check that, and then you can jump into the passage that we're looking at, okay? So Luke chapter 10, verse 38 begins. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way where? They were going to Jerusalem. He came to a village, and they don't name it, but it's called Bethany, a village which is a couple miles. I want you to think, for those of you who aren't from here, you won't get this reference. Think of Royersford, Spring City. So Bethany is like Spring City to Royersford, right? A mile or two away, right? It's literally just a walk through the Mount of Olives. And so this home became a base of operations for Jesus. So it says that as Jesus and his disciples were on their way to Jerusalem, they were in Bethany. They came to a village. In Hebrew, it's Kafar. Jesus is from a village called Kafar Nahum. We transliterate it Kafar Nahum, Capernaum. And a Kafar is a small village basically of 5 to 10 family units that live together. And a woman named Martha opened her home to him. Now, when you read the Gospel of Luke, you're going to notice that Luke is a champion of women in leadership. And it was important for Luke to show future disciples in the early band of followers of Jesus, there was a woman who was just so incredibly talented. She could afford a home large enough for Jesus and all of his disciples to crash every time they came to Jerusalem. They had a built-in Airbnb in the village of Bethany, and it was because of this woman named Martha. This woman, on her own, was able to find the resources to build and sustain a home that was large enough for a massive group of people. Now, why is this important? It's important because it wasn't until the 1960s that women in the United States could get a mortgage without some man in their life signing on their loan documents. Why? Because women, up until the 60s, weren't considered credible enough in terms of their credit and repayment to pay it back. right? And here's this woman named Martha, who the implication is she's successful enough in business that she doesn't need some man to set her up in life. In fact, Martha's home became this basis then of Jesus' operations. Well, we're told that Martha had a sister named Mary. Verse 39 says, she had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. Now, if there were any Pharisees in the area, when they heard this line, Martha was sitting at the Lord's feet, the Pharisees would immediately go, la 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 la. I don't want to hear this. La la la. Right? Why? Because women don't sit at rabbis' feet. They don't. That is reserved for men. To sit at the feet of a rabbi is to be allowed into that rabbi's tutelage. And women were not considered at that time worthy enough investments of time to allow to sit at your feet if you're a rabbi. A rabbi who was popular during the writings of Luke's gospel was a man named Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus, who was famous for saying, instructing a woman in the law is like teaching her blasphemy. Let the law be burned rather than entrusted to a woman. And what does Jesus do? He's like, that guy's an idiot. Come here. Anyway, Luke tells us Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. Can you imagine if 35 people showed up at your house this afternoon? You're like, hold on, I got to go out to Wegmans, right? I didn't clean. You couldn't have texted beforehand, Jesus, that you're just going to show up. And you're like, oh, Jesus, you're saying the Lord's going to provide, but yeah, he's going to do it through me, okay? So you're freaking me out here. So the more responsible people in the room are like, go get a Martha. You just can't do that, right? You can't do that, Jesus. Martha was distracted. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help. And in the original Greek, Jesus says it's in the vocative case, which denotes a sense of tenderness. Martha, Martha. Man, did Jesus love Martha's heart. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one right now. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. I remember when we were living in Ohio, and our kids were old enough. It's before our third one was born, but they were old enough. You know how when you have, for those of you who have had kids, you know, your first year with them, they sit right in the bassinet. And you're like, okay, look, right? And then the second year, they actually can get up and move and unwrap. But the third year is the fun year, right? So we had kids that were old enough, and it was the fun year. When they're old enough, it was the first time they're ripping into it and they're having a good time. I went into the kitchen to get something to drink. And while I was in the kitchen, I noticed that there were dishes in the sink. Now, I don't have OCD, but man, I struggle with OCD, right? Like, I saw the dishes and I was like, okay, hold on, right? So I start doing the dishes, right? And I'm like, I'm cleaning them and that sort of thing. And I'm going to take them. And and that was over here. And 5 minutes went by. And I'm cleaning the kitchen. And something that only happens one time a year, like I'm never going to get that 5 minutes back. Cleaning dishes is good. Having dishes is a good thing. But which was better? At that moment, which was better? Which was better? Like freaking out over the accommodations or sitting down and listening to Jesus, who 5 minutes later could have gone, what do y'all want? You want burgers? Great. Okay, so here's burgers. All right, I didn't get turkey burgers, right? Because quit complaining about, you know. But Martha didn't do that. So my question is, how many of us see Martha in us? Right? That we have that internal struggle. I'm not talking about being the responsible or hospitable person who loves making people feel at home and cared for. What I'm talking about is in verse 40 where it says, Martha was distracted. Distracted is an interesting word choice in Greek for Luke. Distracted literally comes from this idea of you come up on somebody and you startle them, and they're a warrior, right? And so they have a sword here. To be distracted means to unsheath your sword. So to be distracted is there's something that's drawing you away, and you unsheath your sword. And we live like that, don't we? We're doing this, squirrel. We're doing this, phone. We're doing this, text message. We're doing this, email. And we're constantly doing this action of turning and reacting, constantly. Deep Work by, Cal Newport. He talked about how the average person that's in a work environment has less than 7 minutes of undistracted time to themselves. That's just at work. And then you throw small kids in. If you throw some small kids, like, how much time do you really? But what Jesus here is talking about, where we do it, we choose to do it to ourselves. Now, one interesting debate in biblical circles is, why did Jesus leave his hometown of Nazareth and go to Capernaum? All right, so let me see if I remember how to use this here. So they argue over, so this is Israel, and this is the Sea of Galilee. I can't wait to show people this. And it has a river, right? This is the Sea of Galilee. Later on, when the Greeks conquered the area, they called it the Lake of Gennesaret. But the Sea of Galilee, and then this is the Dead Sea, and this is Jerusalem, and here's Jerusalem. This is the Kfar Bethany, the little village of Bethany that Jesus would go to. This is Bethlehem, House of Bread, Bethlehem, and then Nazareth. So these are the points of, I'm sorry. So it's like right here. So what people debate is, why did Jesus go from here to this little town of Galilee, or this little town of Galilee called Capernaum? Why did he do that? Like, your natural base is going to be around your family, right? One idea is family rejection. How many of you remember reading in the Gospel of Mark at the beginning where it said they came to take control of Jesus because they said he's lost his mind. He's demon-possessed. About 70% of the time in the Gospels when someone is demon-possessed, they're simply using demon-possessed terminology as a way of saying they have gone insane. And it's because in the first century, they didn't understand mental illness. Now, the other part of the time, they're actually talking about demons. Demons are actually real. There is possession, all of that. Just look at some of your Pittsburgh Steelers fans. So it could have been that they thought he was crazy, so he had to get out of town, so he went to Capernaum. The other one is population. That they think that Jesus could have reached more people being in Capernaum. Okay, now one thing that you don't see on this map is right here is this port city of Caesarea Maritima. They named it after Caesar. That's the best way you could get money from Caesar. You name a port after Caesar. And Caesar's like, wait, you're putting my name on it? Yeah, I'll give you some money. So they built this massive port called Caesarea Maritima. If you remember when the Apostle Paul was arrested, they took him to Caesarea Maritima, and he stayed there for 2 years. From Caesarea Maritima, there were major road routes that went to Egypt, and another one that went up to Syria through Capernaum. So what's the best way that you could spread your message? Go on the Via Maris. I'm sorry I'm geeking out here, but hang with me. You go on the Via Maris, the way of the sea, and you can go right there in Capernaum and your message can spread everywhere. So all these scholars debate all this over and over again. I think that there's a third option. I think these two reasons could be true. I think that there's a third option. And it's because neurologists are talking about this, psychiatrists are talking about the healing power of what you're about to see. So I'm gonna play something. Every time I go to Capernaum, I always take my phone and I sit on the shore and I just set it there and I take a video. And I want you just to imagine you're Jesus with all the pressures of your ministry, everything that people want from you. People are criticizing you, they want to kill you, they want a piece of time. But then you're like, I'm gonna go here because I have this. Take a look at this. I think that's why he moved there. And that, my friends, is self-explanatory. I love what the great Quaker writer Thomas Kelly wrote about distraction in his spiritual classic, A Testament of Devotion. Kelly said, "We are not integrated, we are distraught. We feel honestly the pull of many obligations and try to fulfill all of them, and we are unhappy, uneasy, strained, oppressed, and fearful. We shall be shallow. For over the margins of life comes a whisper, a faint call, a premonition of richer living, which we are passing by. Strained by the mad pace of our daily outer burdens, we are further strained by an inward uneasiness because we have hints that there is a way of life that is vastly richer and deeper than all this hurried existence, a life of unhurried serenity, peace, and power." Jeff Scheinenberger is an author that suggests, in order to simplify our lives in 2022, that we take a few experiments. So I have 4 experiments that I want to challenge everybody to take this week. And before I give you the experiments, I want you to raise your hand and say, before God, I'm going to do them. Okay, you're a fool, because no, do it. You're going to do it. Just try it. Trust me, do these. Number 1, no phones during family meals for a week. No phones. We never allowed, when our kids were younger, we never allowed phones at the dinner table. Airplane mode, they go over somewhere else and you don't check the phone at our dinner table. Dinner table was the place of everything in our family. It was home base. The dinner table is home base. No phones for a week. Is that good? That was easy, right? No phones for a week. Number 2, turn off your phone for 1 whole day. Some of you are like, yeah, I'm out already. I'm out, right? Now seriously, I want you to try this, right? Because believe it or not, there was a time that if you want to know what the weather was going to be, you had to call a phone number. You remember that? Or if you wanted to find out what time movies were going to be on, you called a phone number. And that was some big technology, because before that, you had to look at the newspaper of what the weather was going to be and what the movies were going to be, right? And so I just want you to repeat after me, everyone. Ready? Fear of missing out will not end my life as I know it. Let's all say it together. Fear of missing out will not end my life as I know it. This is going to help some of you. Number 3, delete social media from your phone for 1 week. And turn off all your notifications. All your notifications of email, all your notifications of text messages, turn them all off for 1 week. No checking TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can all do it from your laptop, but you can't do it from your phone. Turn to the person next to you and say, quit your whining. Experiment number 4. For 1 week, I will only check my email at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. That's it. You get this from Tim Ferriss. I originally wrote this, you can only check your email on the toilet. But then Lisa said, you can't say that, that's too crass. And so I'm not saying that. I'm saying check it at 11 and 3, right? And why? Because email is a tool. Is your world going to end if you only check your email 2 times? Or are we going to check it, as Tim Ferriss says, like a dog stepping on a cocaine pedal to get some food? All day long. I wonder who sent me this life-giving piece of information that I must check, right? A few years ago, I celebrated my 50th birthday, which is a big deal. It was a lot of fun. The only requirement I had was, I don't want any people there. And if you're an introvert, you know, honestly, that's a gift, right? I don't want to walk in, but they surprised me, and they took me to my happy place is in the mountains, anywhere in the mountains. And so they booked an Airbnb in front of a lake in the Poconos on Friday night. And then on Saturday, I was like, what are we going to do? And they said, we have 3 surprises for you today. And they went through all of this planning to do this. The first thing that they did is they said, we're not going to tell you what we're doing. We want to know, we're going to take you there, and we want to see if you're able to know what's happening. So they drove all through the mountains, and then we went to this lake. And at the lake was a fishing guide that had set up a small tent on ice, which I didn't know this. You built a fire right there. And we were warming ourselves in the tent. And then he had pre-dug holes. And so we went ice fishing. Now, I have a video, and I want to show you this because this is what it looks like to go ice fishing with daughters, okay? You're in the tent, you're sipping hot cocoa, a flag goes off in the distance, and this is what it's like, and I need you to turn this up. So this is what it's like to go fishing with daughters. Take a look. You're drinking coffee, the flag goes up, everybody runs to the flag, and this is what it's like to fish with daughters. And that, friends, is what it's like fishing with daughters. Anyway, we were there, and it was so much fun. And they were like, are you ready now to go to adventure number 2? And I was like, let's do it. So we hopped in the car. We drove through the mountains again. And then we went to a range where we went skeet shooting. You know, where you say pull, and then you have a shotgun. And it was awesome. If you like guns, these were Mossberg over-under. And they were just so much fun, like these old-timey kind of guns, and we just shot. And of course, my wife has always been a better shot than me with guns. And I remember when we were getting married, I took her out to a lake, and I had a .22. It's basically every kid in spend/waste your life glued to your screen? Or would you rather spend that 3 hours a day investing it in the ones that you love? Your choice. As Kelly says, life is meant to be lived from a center, a divine center. Life from the center is a life of unhurried peace and power. It is simple. It is serene. It is amazing. It is triumphant. It is radiant. Heavenly Father, we need your help. We have different demons we're fighting today. They're more stealthy, and they have greater control. So many of us have wasted hours we're never going to get back. But we're making the decision now, no more. As the great teacher and exorcist that you were, please cast out from our lives the demons that plague us, the screens that distract us from the gifts that are right in front of us. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks for watching today's message. Make sure to check out Brian's new book, Finding Favor, God's Blessings Beyond Health, Wealth, and Happiness. To sign up for Brian's newsletter, please go to Brian's website at brianjones.com.